All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our final installment of the Student Summer Impact Series. My name is Morgan Goodwin. If we haven't had the chance to connect already, I serve as the Student Engagement Program Manager here at Campus Compact, and I just want to thank you all for joining us today. Over the past few weeks, we've had the privilege of hearing from our Newman Civic Fellows from across the country as they've shared their projects, their partnerships, and initiatives that they've really worked hard to lead in their communities. And I think each session has been a great reminder of the level of creativity, dedication, and civic commitment that these students bring to the challenges and the opportunities that they encounter. So, as we gather for this final session this year, I just really find myself reflecting on how much the fellows have accomplished throughout the year. Um, Through the Newman Civic Fellowship and the mini grant program, the students have identified community needs. They've built partnerships, created programs, advocated for change. They've invested countless hours into making a positive difference in the lives of others. And while every project has been positively unique, they all share one common thread. They share a belief that communities are strengthened when people choose to engage, when we choose to collaborate, when we choose to have an ethic of care for one another. And so, what gives me hope is that in these projects, they're representing more than their individual accomplishments. They're representing students who choose not to remain on the sidelines. They choose to listen, they choose to learn, they focus on building relationships and taking action in a world that often presents very complex and persistent challenges. And that willingness to step forward and contribute is both meaningful and inspiring. So, as many of our fellows are transitioning into their new opportunities, maybe things like a grad school, the next step in their educational opportunities, careers, focusing in on service or research or just additional leadership opportunities, I'm just so very incredibly proud of all that they have accomplished. This fellowship year, it might be coming to a close, but that impact that they've created, the skills that they've developed will continue long after this program ends. I also really want to acknowledge and recognize the many people who helped to make these projects possible. So, to the faculty mentors, the campus leaders, community partners, family, friends, and supporters that are joining us today, a true and genuine thank you from my heart. The community impact is never accomplished alone, and your support has helped these students turn their ideas into action. So, thank you so much for spending part of your afternoon with us. We're excited to hear from our final group of presenters and celebrate the incredible work that they've accomplished. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started, and I will pass things off to our first presenter, Kiera. Take the stage.
Can everyone hear me and see my screen? Perfect. Okay. All right. So my name is Kiera Hardy. I am from the Chicago School. I'm a graduating student. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the project that I did, which is called the Kozy Boutique Pop-Up Shop. So yes, again, my name is Kiera Hardy. A little bit about me. I have a doctorate in basic medical sciences with a background in infectious diseases and host defense. And about 2 years ago, I decided to change my life and go to graduate school at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. And I'll be graduating on Friday with my master's in counseling psychology. Thank you. With a concentration in treatment of addiction disorders. And during my time here at the Chicago School, I got involved with the West Side Heroin Opioid Task Force through a volunteer fair that they had at the school, and it has been such a beautiful experience. And so shown here is a picture from the Kozy Boutique pop-up event with me, one of the young men who came and stopped by at the Kozy Boutique, and some of the volunteers, and one of the staff members from South Heron Opioid Task Force. And then our lovely director, Pastor Fania Buford Baird, who's over in the black shirt on the right there. So project overview. So the Kozy Boutique was designed as a shopping experience for individuals experiencing homelessness on the Chicago West Side, or Chicago's West Side. And the main project goals was to address physical needs of these individuals by offering wound care, meals, hygiene products, and other resources. And what I really wanted to do with this project was just really increase individuals who experience homelessness, sense of control, autonomy, and dignity. And the idea kind of came from my volunteering with the task force, and we all have a donation table. And the people would just light up going through the different clothes that we have, the shoes and things like that. And it was just always such a heartwarming experience for me to see, and just looking at how much those things, basic necessities, were just really needed and appreciated. So I wanted to kind of do something similar, but give people a little bit of choice, and the things that they would want or need. And so part of the donations would be limited, and a lot of the times they didn't have a lot of things for men. So I was hoping with the Kozy Boutique, we can encompass everyone, have a range of sizes, have a little something for everyone. And so the participant goals was to distribute at least 50 wellness bags. On the actual day, we only had about 41 people come through. A lot of that can be attributed to weather. It was a bit cooler out in April here. So a lot of different factors can play a part in that. So the Kozy Boutique. So planning, I did a pre-event survey where I asked individuals what would they like or what are some things that they need. So that survey had things like clothing, shirts, like shirts, underwear, socks. And also asked about snacks, things that they may want to eat on. So like trail mix, fruit snacks, beef jerky, things like that. And so from the assessment, I got an idea of what to buy because I didn't want to just buy anything. I actually wanted to know what people really needed. So from that survey, we were able to purchase the preferred items. We got some donations from other people in terms of journals and books and um, journals, books, crossword puzzles, pens, and things like that. And we took about maybe a month or two to kind of organize the event. We had a lot of community support from Shy Care, which is another organization that helped with meals, providing meals. They also did wound care. HSI, which is Habilitative Systems Incorporated. They provide mental health resources, and then the task force itself. And we also had support from local churches and then just people who wanted to volunteer. So it's just a picture of some of the items I bought. Lessons learned. I should have sent an email. Whenever you're sending emails and you change your mind about the items that you want to buy, just start a new email instead of just continuing to the thread, because I had actually changed the color of the pants that I wanted to buy. I was like, I don't know why you would go for a light gray. Maybe you should go darker because a lot of times people are out on the street. I should have probably changed the color of pink, but I wanted something cute and girly for a lot of the women. And then sometimes men want to wear pink, so I thought give them an option. Um, but also there was a delay in the backpack, socks, and underwear. So I would definitely purchase sooner. And then, as I kind of mentioned, the goal was to reach 50 people, but only 41 came. And so I could have done a bit better job about reaching out to other partners or other organizations to kind of increase engagement. And then there was also the pre-event survey. I would have wanted to get more people to take the pre-event survey. So I probably should have started earlier as I was kind of volunteering on a bi-weekly basis. Um, and then just kind of realizing the impact of including community members in projects or in things that are for them, and just the greatness of that. And so this was just some pictures about from the event day. As I was the main person taking the pictures and also helping people with the clothes, I didn't get a lot of good pictures when there were a rush, and I forgot to ask someone to take pictures. But we had shirts come. Shirts were donated. Those were the journals up in the right-hand corner, journals, books, crossword puzzles that were all donated from a local church. And then the snack bags we had hygiene products, so toothpaste, toothbrush, soap. Some of them had towels in them. A lot of them had feminine hygiene products. And for the snacks, we had crackers, there were fruit snacks, there were the Carl's trail mix and granola bars and things like that. So we're really trying to get a little bit of protein, but also delicious things like fruit snacks and other treats. Outcomes. All right, so 76% of the participants reported a very positive experience. 93% reported feeling welcomed and supported. And, oh, sorry, 95% reported that it was important being able to choose items that met their needs. And a lot of times, not a lot of times, we also asked them if their physical needs were supported, such as wound care, hygiene, and being able to get food and things like that. And we also got a very overwhelming response of those. And a lot of the people that chose no was because we ended up running out of clothing or particular sizes. So that would also be a thing in terms of if I was to do this again, just kind of really expanding the selection. Other outcomes, 93% reported that their physical needs were supported. 49% of the people were connected to housing resources. A lot of them were connected to substance use treatment resources, and as well to mental health resources. And of those who took the survey, as we gave it to them as they were completing their shopping experience, a lot of them reported that they would like to have another Kozy Boutique event, which was very heartwarming to hear. It's just that the experience itself was great for them, but also able to connect with local organizations who can just provide them with other services. Impact and lessons learned. So impact and moving forward. So to me, I believe that the Kozy Boutique demonstrated that choice-based services can promote a sense of dignity, autonomy, and control, and that a lot of these resource connections can occur naturally through just regular engagement with people on the streets. And so the West Side Heroin Opioid Task Force is just well known for its reputation of every day they go out and just really interact with people. And it's not always just about pushing treatment on them, but providing safe use kits, providing a lot of harm reduction material, and just kind of asking them like, hey, how are you taking care of yourself? Is there anything that you need? Um, and then just small community initiatives can create a meaningful impact. Future possibilities. There was interest in replicating the model at other organizations. HSI would like to do something similar at their organization, but I was like, I would be happy to do that if only we had the funding. Expanding the clothes and supplies inventories, like I said, just increasing the number of sizes. It was really hard to kind of gauge size because when I did the survey, a lot of people were saying mediums and larges. So I got medium and larges, but as people were coming in, they actually preferred smalls because I guess the pants ran a little big. And so that was also a fun experience of just having people hold up the clothing to themselves and like, let me see how this fit. And oh, this looks a little big. I don't think I'll go with a smaller size, or maybe I need a little bigger size. So that was also a part of it. A part of the fun. And then also simulate a buying experience. So part of what we did was we created the flyers, and then as people talked to, were on the outside talking to people who did the wound care and got meals and provided them with other resources for substance use or got their harm reduction kits, we gave them a ticket. And then that ticket or the flyer acted as a ticket, and then they would come into the building and get all the other the clothing, the shirts, the journals, and the other hygiene products. And so I think if I was to redo this, I would try to do a better job of simulating a buying experience of like setting up a little cash register and having more racks so people can shop and then categorize them by sizes. And so people can go to that particular rack and just shop their sizes. So I would just try to do a better job of simulating an actual buying experience. And then just partnering with additional community organizations. Personal growth. I gained experience in project plan. I haven't really done anything like this before. So this was such an amazing job. And I was grateful to have the support of the task force to plan it. And they were really just like, well, what do you want to make of it? And oh, I think this would be a good idea. So I really love that support from them. And also they really just let me take the reins on how I would like to set it up. But they also offer great feedback and what they thought would be best. So yeah, great experience in project planning, community outreach, doing a needs assessment, and then just evaluating, which was awesome because I had just took a class on program evaluation, so it really worked out of creating those things. And being flexible when plans change because, as I mentioned, the backpack socks and underwear were delayed in getting there. They were expected to get there on the day of, but they never made it. So we used like little plastic bags for people to put their belongings in. But once they did finally arrive, we kind of just distributed them out in regular outreach. And then I also learned that the how vital community partnerships are, thanks to the connections from Pastor Tanya Buford Berry, who was the director of the task force. Her partnerships with other local churches and just the reputation of the task force of being out in the community and partnering with other organizations were hugely important and vital to the success of the Kozy Boutique. Um, Yes, and then just a thank you, a huge thank you to everyone that was involved, the Westside Heroin Opioid Task Force, Shy Care for providing the meals and the wound care. They was also doing blood glucose screenings, blood pressure screenings, and things like that. And the Habilitative Systems Incorporated, which was there for mental health support, so getting people signed up with those resources if they needed, local churches, volunteers, and just a very huge thank you to Campus Compact for seeing the vision and then funding the project. And just being a part of such a wonderful organization has allowed me to do something I never would have thought I would be able to do or ever dreamed of doing. So I'm just really grateful to have had the experience. Thank you.
Kiera, I just want to say congratulations for all of your accomplishments, and I can clearly see the amount of care and effort you've put into this project. Really tackling an issue that can be very like fluent in how you are trying to connect with them, the research that you've done in order to make sure that they have like, a choice in what it is that they are getting here and that it's actually meeting the needs that they have, as well as the collaboration you have going on within the community to kind of connect folks with different types of resources that may be going overlooked in that space. So just thank you so much for all of the hard work that you've put in here. Very proud of the work. And I think now we can move on to our next presenter. That will be Shelby, representing Rogers State University.
Okay, hi everybody. Are you able to hear me and see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so like she said, my name is Shelby Bass. I'm from Rogers State University. This year with the Campus Compact Mini Grant, I decided to organize something called the Grand Fauxsino. So just a little overview of what I'm going to talk about today. Just like most of the other presenters, I'm going to give a little introduction about what the event looked like, also kind of what the process was like. I'll also be going over kind of the outcomes that I was measuring, as well as some of the challenges that I faced in those outcomes, as well as kind of what I hope can happen for the project continuing after me, and then personal growth that I found through the process of putting on the Grand Fauxsino. So just a little introduction. The Grand Fauxsino is a student-led fundraiser event that had mock gambling, giveaway prizes, live music, food, and drinks, as well as cocktail attire dress code to kind of bring it like an upscale event, as you can see in the photo. This event was designed to raise funds as well as awareness for a local nonprofit of my choosing. So I chose to support Poetic Justice, which was a really important, sorry, something popped up. It was a really important nonprofit that was founded in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with a mission to offer restorative writing and creative arts programs to individuals that have been or are currently incarcerated in women's jails and prisons around the US. And so we specifically did the fundraiser for the Tulsa program. So just a little bit about the process. It's pretty extensive, but these are just kind of the main points that I thought were important about the process of putting on the Grand Fauxsino. The first one was just setting initial goals. I think anybody going into something like this needs some goals set. So the first one was I really wanted to focus this year on raising awareness. So actually last year we put on this project as well, and I decided to do it again because I helped to create it last year and I kind of wanted to also improve it this year. So this year I wanted to focus, like I said, more on raising awareness, a little bit less on funds as the priority. And I also wanted to improve some of the event logistics, kind of make it just run smoother, kind of work out some of the kinks that I noticed from last year and kind of just make it an overall better experience for attendees. I also knew that procuring funding was a really large part of the planning process. So like Obviously, I was able to procure funding from Campus Compact Mini Grant, which was a huge help. They paid for all of the mock gambling tables and took a really big weight off of my shoulders in being able to do that. I was also able to procure funding from the campus's student government because they are really big on supporting students and putting in new events. And so they were able to help fund some of the food as well as some of the decorations. And then I also got some funding from the RSU Honors Program, of which I was the president of last year. And they paid for the giveaway prizes that we gave away at the end of the event. Another big part of the process of planning a major event like this is just making sure people know about it. So early promotion was a really big thing for me last year. It was something that I really wanted to focus on this year. So in order to equally reach out to our campus and community alike, we went about it in kind of different ways. For the campus, we attended a lot of events that were happening on campus and just talked to students that were attending these events and getting them to hear about the Grand Fauxsino and like when it was and what it was about. We also had a lot of flyers posted in like the student union centers as well as on all of the dorm room doors. Um, so that was a really big thing so students could see that. We also had our flyer and all of our event information attached to student-wide emails that were sent out weekly. And then we also had every student organization post on their Instagram about the event. And we gave them kind of freedom to change up that post a little bit so they could use our flyer. But I also told a few of them that if they had fun graphic ideas that they wanted to do, they could do that too. And a lot of them did, and they were really cool. And some of those graphics are actually included in the slideshow. And then for the community, we also had to be really intentional about reaching out to kind of a different demographic, obviously, than the students. So we went to all the local businesses and we gave them our flyers to have them post them into their windows. But I also talked to a lot of these business owners to see if they'd want to be sponsors or just to invite them to the event personally, just because I know that that one-on-one connection is really important. So I would ask them to attend or to tell people that they knew to attend because I thought it was important. We also joined some Facebook groups that posted about events happening in our local community. And so those are Facebook groups are really important because a lot of those people are interested in attending these types of events. So it was a great place to turn to. And we also have like a local newspaper that we added our flyer into. And then another big part of the planning process that I really had anticipated was facilitating communication among all of the people involved. So I have a list of all the people that were involved, and it's pretty extensive. And I talk more about this later, but just learning how to relay information from one person to the next effectively and quickly, but then also being able to kind of figure out the jigsaw puzzle of we can't do this until that is done, but we can't do that until this is done. Just working through that and figuring out that process, it was really good that we started communication early because if we would have started later, just that's like getting that process started would have been too hard. So that was good. Um, and then for the general outcomes, I wanted to raise awareness, and I think that we were able to do that because we had nearly 100 people in attendance, including students and community members, which was really amazing. And then in terms of funds, we were able to raise over $2,000, which went directly to Poetic Justice. Poetic Justice didn't have to put any money into anything in planning the event, and they also didn't have to use any manpower in planning the event, which was a really big deal for us. And so being able to just give them that $2,000 for very minimal effort from them was really helpful. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. And then I also, something that I didn't originally plan to be an outcome, but that I realized was something that we did succeed in unintentionally was just sparking creativity and kind of like inspiring other students to do similar things to what we did. So at the end of the night, I had an overwhelming amount of underclassmen or just other students come up to me and not just say that they wanted the Grand Fauxsino to happen again, but that they wanted to see if they could do something like it or like what the process looked like or how I became inspired to do it myself. And so that was really cool and not something I had anticipated, but that I found really meaningful because I graduated this year. And even though I can't come back to campus next year and do this again, like somebody else that maybe attended got really excited about it and might do something on their own. And so I found that really amazing. And then, like I said, for the next steps, I do hope that the Grand Fauxsino will continue. And I've talked to the next campus compact Newman fellow that is coming from Rogers State, and she seems really interested in maybe doing the Fauxsino again. But even if she doesn't, like I said, just sparking that creativity, maybe she'll do something else. But having that general like wanting to help a community member, some sort of local nonprofit, I definitely think that that will continue happening. I do think that if the Fauxsino continues on, changing the nonprofit that's supported each year is definitely a major highlight of the project. So last year we supported a different nonprofit than the one I chose this year. But like I said, I specifically chose to support Poetic Justice because I personally have been researching, as a political science minor, the longstanding issues of high recidivism rates in the US. And I found that in my research, prison-based programs and like post-release support programs are really crucial aspects of creating meaningful impacts. But until we can have policies in place or programs like that supported in different ways, nonprofits like Poetic Justice are invaluable. The work that they do is so incredible and they're doing it on their own. And so finding ways to support them, whether that be awareness or funds, I think is just amazing. Um, and then for personal growth, I definitely learned a lot through this process. It was really an amazing process. Some things that I learned that I kind of thought I didn't anticipate, but that I think were great was I learned how to prioritize items on my to-do list a lot better. So it wasn't necessarily chronological order anymore, like I had originally done. I used to do it like, oh, if this is due first, this is what I do first. But a lot of these items that I had on my to-do list were a lot bigger than other ones. And so I learned kind of how to gauge how much time would be dedicated to each one or the importance of each and just getting that on my to-do list in different orders. I also learned how to communicate more effectively between these various groups. So like I said, figuring out that jigsaw puzzle of communication and kind of moving those parts together in an effective way, using language that kind of shows this needs to be done now, or hey, you have more time to do this. Stuff that I learned along the way. So that was really incredible. I also learned better how to delegate tasks to other people. I heard all the time throughout the process, learn how to delegate, give somebody else this task. And that was really hard for me because in my head, I was like, okay, I'll assign this task, but I wasn't really letting it go. And so through this process, I was too spread thin to be doing everything. Nobody could possibly do that. So I really learned how to trust my team. I had a great team of students helping me, and I did really trust their judgment. So I just had to learn how to let go and give them that task and know that they would do it and do it well without me having to watch that happen or kind of push them to keep doing that. So that was really important growth for me. And then, kind of just in conclusion, so like I said, I've been talking a lot about poetic justice, but we raised funds and awareness for them, and the funds are going to help them as they continue offering programs in 3 Oklahoma counties and 2 prisons, as well as trying to launch a new initiative within Rogers County, which is where my college is located. And then for awareness, we were able to recruit a lot of volunteers, as well as just kind of give a general message to all of the 100 attendees, because we had a lot of the women in incarceration's art was set up as a gallery walkthrough at the beginning of the event. We also had one of the women that used to be enrolled in the program actually give a speech at the end of the event, which I was found was really meaningful. And then, like I said, a lot of the student volunteers, there was about 26 of them, I believe. A few of them mentioned that they would want to start volunteering with Poetic Justice in the future because they had maybe heard about it before, but not really their mission or their impact as thoroughly as they had at this event. And so that was a really incredible thing that I found. Just like inspiring students to help, even if they didn't want to put on their own projects, but even just helping poetic justice. So I thought that was really cool. And hopefully in the future, we're able to see that flourish a little bit more. But that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions for me, my information is right here as well as poetic justices, and I'd be happy to talk to you guys more about the Grand Fauxsino. Thank you so much.
Shelby, thank you so much for sharing about this. Having seen the mini grant project last year and seeing the growth that you've put it through this year is actually just, it's fantastic. I really appreciate one, the longevity. I hope that this is something that folks continue to do, but even if, like you said, this isn't the project that the Newman Civic Fellow chooses to do next year, I see the hard work that you've put in here and spreading the level of awareness and bringing in community members to also care about this just as passionately as you do. So I think you should be very proud of that level of collaboration and outreach because it is really hard to get people involved and excited and even aware of certain events that are going on in that space. So I just think that that was amazing, being able to pull in those local businesses and things like that. And you just really accomplished that ability to like inspire other people to act. So I think that is absolutely beautiful. You should be very proud of the work that you've done. I think we can go ahead and move on to our next presenter, which will be Mohammed, who is representing the University of Pittsburgh.
All right. Hello, everyone. Are you able to hear me and see my screen?
Yes, we can see you.
Yep. Come on. Apologies for my screen that's loading slowly. All right. There we go. So my project is called Advocacy 101. So first, to introduce myself, my name is Mohammed Shadid. I'm an incoming senior at the University of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, and I'm studying neuroscience as well as Spanish, and I'm an aspiring physician and advocate. So my organization that I'm working with is the PA Youth Advocacy Network, which is founded by the Jewish Healthcare Foundation. So just to give you some context about the work that they do, they empower and connect youth advocates across Pennsylvania to build a safety net for teen mental health. That's their main focus. And they are given opportunities to speak with elected officials, attend workshops and trainings, and connect with teens across the Commonwealth and create change. So the major goals of this organization that I've been working with for over 5 years now is to pass Senate Bill 781 and House Bill 1648. And what these bills seek to do is enforce school excused mental health days in Pennsylvania, because currently there is not a uniform school excused mental health day policy in Pennsylvania, but it exists in other states across the country, such as in New York and Kentucky. So essentially what this bill would seek to do is amend this public school code of 1949 to allow provisions of excused mental health days in Pennsylvania without the need of a doctor's note or formal diagnosis, because we're trying to reduce the barriers to care, such as long waiting times to see a psychiatrist or a mental health specialist, and possible stigma that exists in families around mental health. Additionally, the bill includes safety guards, such as connections following a day off, and requiring check-ins with your counselor after 2 consecutive days that you take for mental health reasons, just to ensure that you are safe and everything is okay at home. And it would require the Pennsylvania Department of Education to demonstrate a model policy as well. So essentially, one of the biggest concerns we receive from elected officials, students, and other parents is that there's truancy. And truancy just means that students skip so many days in a row that it's difficult for them to keep on track with their schoolwork or be able to keep up with the class's progress. But we align with the current PA school code with truancy. And we have an umbrella of 10 days that's in the PA school code. And we're just adding mental health days as one of those categories under those 10 school excuse days that you can take throughout the entire school year. So it's not like we're adding additional days. We're just adding another category. And again, we have that 2-day consecutive limit before you would be required to speak with a counselor. And again, this is just a demonstration of what the current law is and what some of the updates are. I'm just going to go through some of the updates because the language in the current law is a bit wordy. So essentially, you're going to define a mental health day as a day where a student's well-being is at risk due to mental or physical fatigue, regardless of whether the underlying mental health-related condition is a certified or uncertified mental health condition. Additionally, it will amend the definition of excused absences and create the category of excused absence called mental health day. And additionally, I think it's important to clarify what the bill will not do. It will not eliminate the broad latitude of school entities to enact their own policies or require an increase in the number of school excused absences. And it will not undermine existing laws and disability rights. So you might be thinking why we are doing this. So this picture is from a student. His name was Gotham. This was from a news article a couple of months ago. Unfortunately, Gotham was passed away outside of his house due to suicide. Gotham had been struggling with mental health conditions before, and not many people noticed it, unfortunately. And this is the 5th death related to suicide in my high school from both alumni and current students in the past 2 years. So it is a huge issue in my school and across PA as well. PA has one of the worst students to counselor ratio. The national average recommendation is 250 students to 1 counselor. Less than 20% of schools in PA follow that national average. So obviously mental health is a huge concern in Pennsylvania. So we are trying to enact this uniform change to ensure that access to care and access to mental health support does not just depend on your zip code. So what I sought to do with the $1,250 I received as a fund was set up an Advocacy 101 event for Pittsburgh high schoolers. And what I wanted to do with this event is that I realized a lot of Pittsburgh high schoolers aren't very familiar with civic engagement and how to contact their legislators specifically about mental health concerns. So what I did with the funds was I reserved a community center space in downtown Pittsburgh. I created posts on Instagram and made flyers. I also brought some youth and teen committee members to create kind of like a steering committee so that they could also play a more active role in setting up this event. So it's not just more passive and I'm talking to them the entire time. So they also suggested certain events they wanted and certain discussion points they wanted to bring up. So I was able to bring stipends for them. And of course, we had a lot of youth there. So I used some of the funds to bring food, snacks, and drinks for them. And we also used the funds for the creation of postcards and informational materials for attendees. So some challenges. Getting initial interest in the event was kind of challenging, especially before I had like the steering committee with me, full of high schoolers, because advocacy can seem like a daunting task at first, especially if you haven't done something of that nature before. So talking to a legislator can seem pretty scary. And unfortunately, there was a record-breaking snowstorm in Pittsburgh 2 days before the event. So obviously, road closures and trying to get rid of all that snow decreased attendance a little bit. We had like 30 attendees initially, or 30 attendees that signed up, and it went down to 14 the day of the event. But it's okay, it happens. That also taught me to be more flexible and to focus more on things that I can control and less on the things that I can't control. Additionally, the bipartisan nature of PA, especially in the legislation, the House and the Senate, is very unique. It's almost split 50-50 in terms of Republicans and Democrats. So as you can imagine, it's very hard to get them to agree on anything, particularly something as polarizing as mental health. So getting people to agree on that is difficult, and talking about it in terms of a legislation sense is also difficult. So we also did have some successes. Again, I mentioned we had the youth steering committee. So they're still working together right now and continuing to develop ideas for how to improve mental health legislation. So that's something that will continue even beyond me. And we had 12 students attended and 5 adult supporters, counselors, and administrators. And essentially, we were able to have a conversation about mental health policy, what was the problem with the current policy and how we sought to improve it. And we were able to have like informational packets with information about their respective legislators and senators and representatives. And some people volunteered to create postcards to send to their legislators. So we had 14 of those sent out. And here are just some pictures from the events. Initially, in the top left corner, I just gave a quick presentation about advocacy and how to talk to your legislator. And then we welcome the students to have conversation with the adult supporters. We had counselors there, we had administrators, we had some principals as well. So that was great to see. And then we also had like a posters activity where we had certain questions and prompts, such as like, what can you do to improve mental health in your school? Or what conversations do you want to see at your school? So we had students go around, as well as the adult supporters, with some sticky notes and then just jot down their ideas and share together. And then these are just some more pictures of the conversations that students had about their own schools. And we had students from all across the city of Pittsburgh. So it was interesting to see their conversations from more rural areas, the more city-wide schools, and the suburban areas, to see like their different perspectives as well. And then finally, the current impact and opportunities we have. So before this event, I went with some other students to Harrisburg to advocate for these bills. And afterwards, the students that were at the event expressed interest. So they're currently planning another trip to Harrisburg to attend and speak and lobby for these bills. And we also have a representative from NAMI Keystone who was there. And it was great to strengthen that partnership again. And hopefully moving forward, that will help us pass the bill. Here are some ways to get involved if you're interested. So we have an ongoing petition, which is at 603 signatures as of today. We have 43 of the 67 counties in PA represented, as well as 25 other states across the country who have signed the petition. This QR code will take you to the petition if you're interested in looking at it or signing it. No pressure though. But also just speaking publicly about this bill and the work of youth, even if it's in your own state. If there's similar bills, I think it's very important to protect students, to protect teens, and encouraging your own Senate education committees to vote on similar bills, both in PA and in the entire country. And I think it's also very important to be aware of who your legislator is, especially in America. We pride ourselves on being a democracy. So I think it's very important for high schoolers as well to be civically engaged. And I think that's something that Campus Compact is very good at, as well as the Newman Civic Fellowship. Here's my contact information. If anyone would like to get in touch with me, I can also put it in the chat as well. Thank you.
And I want to thank you so much for presenting on this, but also just tackling such an important issue. This is the type of thing, honestly, on a lot of different fronts where I think it's vital that we have students and young folks involved in this. One, even if, you only, connect with one other person or reach one other person, that can have a life-altering impact on their safety and well-being, or even a rippling effect further out into the community. And I also love to hear about getting young folks engaged, helping them to understand that they do have a voice in creating change, and getting them comfortable in what civic engagement might look like for them. Uh, making that, first call to a representative to make sure that your voice is being heard and that you're being represented and how your laws, bills, and policies are being made. That's just very impactful and powerful. So I want to thank you for all the work that you're putting in there. And then I think I see a question in there in the chat about putting the link for the petition in the chat. So if you can do that, or I think you might have already done that, folks can check that out in the chat as well. All right, so thank you for that. And now we will move on to our final presenter, Joshua, representing Connecticut College.
Alrighty, hello there. So I'm Joshua, and my project is about transit advocacy in New London, Connecticut. So I'm a senior, rising senior at Connecticut College, and currently I'm studying environmental studies, and I'm also pursuing a community action and public policy certificate program, which is kind of how I got started in this advocacy space. I got interested in the legislature and transit through a housing policy internship at the Center for Housing Opportunity. And I care about this transit issue because not only am I a transit writer, but transit is incredibly important to my community. Lots of people rely on transit in New London. Over 10% of people in New London don't have a card, so they rely on this transportation service to get around New London. Also, as an environmental studies major, having sustainable focused transportation policy is incredibly important to promote public transit instead of private car driving, especially in an area like New London where there is a lot of environmental, not environment, air pollution, particularly from a major highway that goes through our town. And then the other part to this project is opportunity. Having accessible transportation like transit is an incredible way to expand job opportunities for people, opportunities to get healthcare, and opportunities for housing for people who don't have access to a housing in the city of New London. They can live somewhere else that is cheaper and use transit to get into New London. Recently, I got involved with transit as my college made budget cuts to the transportation resources on campus. Previously, the college subsidized Lyft rides for students. However, due to budget cuts, they removed those subsidies, and many students do not have access to cars. Over 70% of students do not have access to their own car. So they did rely on public transit and these Lyft subsidies to get around London. And some threats have also been posed at the city level. One of the key transit services was in danger of getting its funding cut last year. Luckily, it got another year of extension of funding, but it will undergo the same threat next year. Some of the goals this year in this project was primarily to collaborate with community members. New London has a lot of community partners or community nonprofits that do a lot of great work to promote sustainability and the community well-being. in New London. Some of them are at the college, like the Sustainability Office at Connecticut College, or the People's Budget Coalition in New London, who is focused on fiscal advocacy work at the city level. And another goal was to increase the awareness of transit on campus. Many people did not know that we even had a transit service going by the campus before I started this work, which was a barrier that I found. Having education about transit was a huge barrier for people not using transit. And then lastly, and the biggest goal for me was to build momentum for transit advocacy in New London. I wanted to create a space for people to look to where they could learn about how to advocate for transit and what issues are present in the city. So my project work included tabling at community events on campus. Reaching out to those community partners was very key to collect data about what barriers people have with transportation. Many of them explained cost was a huge one. Having frequency of transit service was also a limiting factor for many people. Many people could not get around New London because the buses only come once an hour. And then lastly, at these tabling events, I provided a space for students to try transit. I had open tabs for people to use transit in a supportive environment for people that haven't used transit before. It was a place where people could try transit, and I would be able to show them a bit about how to use it if they have not used transit before. Some of the conflict challenges that I've encountered with this project include something that I did not expect, scheduling conflicts. I did not realize how busy spring semester was, not only for me, but for city councilors, for other students, and for faculty. So originally I had scheduled a community forum type event about transit in New London in May. However, several speakers had to cancel that due to prior commitments a week ahead of the event. So that was a huge barrier or challenge to my project. However, I'm looking to continue this project, and I have rescheduled the event for a less busy time in a couple days. And then another challenge is finding interested community partners. Transit has not been much of a discussion point in New London previously, so it was difficult to find community partners who were interested in this. However, when I did start reaching out to nonprofits, I found a lot of interest in people. They just did not know where to look for it because there was no organization supporting transit advocacy before. So some of the results that I found was that I found out what barriers people had to transit. The biggest one on campus was education. People did not know how to use the transit system in New London. So by using tabling activities and those open tabs, I was able to reduce those barriers. One of the quotes that I have is from a student who was scared of using transit just because what they have heard about transit was that it was unsafe. However, when we were able to go together as an open tab at a local coffee shop, they found it really isn't that scary. It was just taking a little bit of time to get used to. So getting people to try out transit for the first time was really helpful to get people to ride transit again. Because many of these people, what I talked to, they said that after riding transit the first time, they said that they would be more willing to use it later. This is one of the events that I was at. So this poster here is just a vision board of what people wanted to their transportation system to look like. Many of them talked about having more transit service, better bike lanes, and easier walking and cycling infrastructure. Some of the future work that I hope to do is an upcoming event I have this Thursday. As I previously mentioned, I had to cancel the previous community forum. However, I was able to reschedule that for this Thursday, where I hope to develop more connections with different nonprofits in the area to build sort of that same steering committee that Mohammed was talking about earlier. I think that would really create a space for New Londoners to kind of focus their advocacy in a very structured way to build a better advocacy base. I also am looking to continue this project into next year. As the fall semester is also less busy, it gives more opportunities for me to reach out to first years, especially to show that transit is an option. Again, the education was a huge barrier to people using transit, because when I first started at Connecticut College, I did not learn about transit until my second year at a summer program, and having that year without transit as an option was a very difficult time trying to figure out how to get around without a car. And then also, I just plan on continuing tabling and outreach at community events, including a walk to end homelessness event during the summer next year. There's a lot of great community outreach opportunities coming up next year. And then my personal impact, I learned a bit about more about what my community needs from these community partners and from a survey that I conducted. I learned what the barriers were, education. I learned what people wanted their transit system to look like. And on the personal level, I developed my leadership skills, and managing a grant budget was the first time that I've ever managed a grant budget before, which was very interesting to learn how to do. One of the community partners, the Holleran Center, was very helpful in managing or in helping me manage that budget, learning how to work on developing a budget and keeping track of funding. And then lastly, on my future work, the community organizing of this project was very moving for me. I learned how impactful community organizing is, and I found it very fun to work with different community partners and working with students, getting able to have conversations about how students and residents of New London saw their city and what their vision for the future was, which also leads into my plans for just continuing transit advocacy for the future as well. Any questions and comments? Feel free to call or text me or an email. I've included all the information here. So thank you. And thank you again to Campus Compact and the community partners for the funding and connections.
Thank you so much for sharing this, Joshua. I think transportation and making sure that folks have access to reliable and safe transit is such an important cause. Whether it's folks who maybe don't have access to a car, the health insurance and job stability it provides to other people, creating better environmental protections as well for your community, or if it's just an accessibility issue as well. I just think there are so many ways that transportation is kind of overlooked. And so I'm really proud of all the work that you're doing and are continuing to do to make progress in this area. I would like to, if possible, pass this off to another student for us to share in presentation for Ariana.
Thank you. I think, let me share my screen. Oh, share. You guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I'll do this quick because okay, so my name's Ariana Zapata. I'm from the Citadel, South Carolina. I have sorry, my notes are over here. So I am a criminal justice and Spanish major. And then for my Newman Fellowship mini grant project, I decided to host a free cheer clinic for the young girls in my community. One of my main goals was to just make cheerleading more accessible because I know that many youth sports activities can be expensive. And then I also wanted to provide a free opportunity for girls who otherwise may not have access to organize competitive like cheer programs. Oh, okay. So the process, yes. So we had 50 applicants, and then 30 young ladies decided to come through on the day of. So this was our flyer. One of my good friends decided to make this for me for free. She was very nice about it, and it reached out to even like I went to my professors if that I knew that had kids, my mentors that had kids. I went to a church to pass out flyers. I went to a local small like neighborhood that I knew was by elementary school. Um, my friends on the cheer team lived in neighborhoods, so they passed them out to their Facebook moms. So the process. So once I received the grant, I started planning the clinic by securing the location, which was pretty easy. It was on my campus. I wanted to use the big gym that we use because it's very pretty in there. It has like the school logos and everything. We started purchasing supplies and organizing activities. Um, I think one of the most important parts of the project was just recruiting volunteers, including members of my cheerleading team that I am the captain of. And then I think with that, I wanted just the girls to have a positive role models throughout the event, which I know that my friends, my teammates, um, did a good job with. Planning did take a lot of organization, but then seeing it all on the day of just kind of made all the hard work worth it. Here I have Miss Maggie. Miss Maggie is the daughter of one of my mentors, and she helped out almost every day. She helped make the goodie bags. She even tested out the shirts, making sure it works. So the outcome, love the outcome. The biggest impact that I observed was, I think, just the increase of confidence among the young ladies that we had. It was from 9 to 2, so it's kind of an early morning. But when many of the girls arrived that morning, they stayed close to their parents at the sign-in table. They didn't even want to say bye to mom, bye to dad. But my teammates, the music, just the environment, I think made them loosen up. They were hesitant kind of to interact with each other. But as you can see in the middle picture, they decided to trust each other on a couple of the things we made them do. But as the day progressed, they became more comfortable. They participated in all the activities we had for them to do, and they were even encouraging one another. We had siblings. We had a multiple siblings, so that was good. But by the final performance, because they were taught a dance routine also, they were smiling. They were very confident in performing in front of their parents or families. I think at the end, what made it even more better is when several parents even suggested that I should make it a monthly event, or they asked me when's the next one. And no, this was like a one thing event, but I took that in consideration. I think in the next steps, looking ahead, I do want to have more future clinics. I think the youth leadership needs to be more. How do you say, more accessible. I think more out there. We need more engagement in our community. This project has shown me how much interest there is in accessible youth programs. Moving forward, I would love to continue creating this type of opportunity, and I think I will now that it's my senior year. And my mentors have told me that they would fully support me in doing this, even like going to the schools, elementary schools, and maybe like once a week on a gym class, just being there, engaging them. My hope is that this project continues to inspire confidence and leadership in the young ladies in my community. My personal growth is, I think, this project was very meaningful, I think, to me, because gymnastics and cheerleading did play such a role in my life growing up. Looking back, I realized that the many opportunities I had were possible because someone invested. I was sponsored. My parents couldn't pay competitive gymnastics; it was way too expensive. But I was sponsored by someone, and as a little girl, I didn't understand what that meant. But now I understand that, my parents had to go out their way to get someone to pay for me to go to like a gymnastics program. So through this clinic, I had the opportunity to give that same experience to others. I learned that leadership is about creating opportunity for people and just helping them realize their potential. I do go to a military school, so we do have leadership skills and positions here. And just seeing the girls leave more confident than what they arrived was just the most rewarding part of this experience. Some of these pictures include some of the girls. They do have consent. Their parents did sign consent for them to take pictures. But thank you to everyone, especially to Campus Compact, the fellowship, my volunteers, my teammates, especially my mentor, Miss Christina, and all the families, obviously, who trusted me with their children. And hopefully, in the future, I get to continue this project that I have created. Thank you.
And thank you. It shows that you've put a good amount of work and effort into building this community and creating these opportunities for these children. And so that's amazing. So I want to be cognizant of folks' time, but please allow me to thank everyone who was able to show up here and support our students in their Student Summer Impact Series. I just want to thank you for joining us for these presentations and thank you for supporting our Newman Civic Fellows. Over the last few weeks, we've heard stories of service, leadership, innovation, community impact from students from all over the place. And they've painted this wonderful picture of what's possible when students are empowered to lead and support turning their ideas into action. And so to the fellows, I want to say thank you for your commitment, your perseverance, your willingness to invest your time and talent into the service of others. We are very proud of you and what you've accomplished, not just your projects, but also the relationships that you've built, the communities you've strengthened, and the example that you're setting for other folks. I want to also thank the campus leaders, mentors, community partners, family, friends, volunteers, everyone who really encouraged these students along the way. Your guidance and partnership have been a very important part of their success. And on behalf of Campus Compact, I just thank you all for being a part of this year's Student Summer Impact Series. It's really been a privilege to celebrate the work of these outstanding fellows, and we look forward to seeing the many ways they will continue to lead and create positive change in the years ahead. So thank you again. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, and congratulations to all our fellows and whatever those next steps that you all are taking in your journeys. Hi, everyone.